Good day, everyone. I'm happy to see you again as we get set to take another stroll down memory lane. This is the Fifth Quarter Show Seasons, a feature that comes your way every Tuesday during the Canadian Football League's off-season. Last week's episode was jam-packed with some cool tidbits of information, and I want to thank everyone who shared their thoughts and memories in the comments section. It was pretty cool. Feel free to do so after you watch this video as well. You can also listen to Seasons and Legends by subscribing to the Fifth Quarter Show podcast on Spotify. Just search for the Fifth Quarter Show with Rick Samprin. Today, in episode 22 of Seasons, join me as we look back at the year 1994. Now, as I said at the conclusion of episode 21, the Ticats did not start the 90s as well as they had hoped. They missed the playoffs in the first couple of years before making it to the East Final in 1992. But 3 years into the decade, Hamilton had won just 20 of their 54 regular season games. Sadly, more tough times were ahead for the Tiger Cats and the Canadian Football League. Brian Mulroney resigned as Prime Minister in 1993, making Kim Campbell Canada's first female PM, but she was defeated by Jean Chrétien in the federal election 4 months later. The Montreal Canadiens won their 24th Stanley Cup. As of this recording, they remain the last Canadian NHL team to do so. In 1994, the last Canadian Kresge store at the corner of King and Houston and Hamilton closed after 64 illustrious years. The CFL was on shaky financial footing in the early 90s, and league officials were debating new revenue streams, how to get them. One idea was expansion, but not to Atlantic Canada. On February 23, 1993, the CFL went stateside by granting an expansion franchise to Sacramento, California. The Gold Miners, who were the Surge in the defunct World League of American Football, became the CFL's first expansion team since the BC Lions in 1954, and the first from outside of Canada. Made up of all-American players, Sacramento was placed in the West Division, along with BC, Edmonton, Calgary, and Saskatchewan. Hamilton, Toronto, Montreal, and Winnipeg remained in the East. The Gold Miners finished in last place in the West with 6 wins and 12 losses, the same record as Hamilton, which was good enough for second place in the East, better than 4-14 Ottawa and 3-15 Toronto. The Ticats and Gold Miners faced off twice in 1993, with Hamilton winning 30-17 in Week 2 at Ivor Wynne Stadium, while Sacramento topped the Cats 46-10 at Hornet Stadium in Week number 7. 1993 was a challenging season for the Ticats. On the field, Hamilton beat Ottawa in the Eastern semifinal 21-10 before losing 20-19 in the East Final in Winnipeg. Off the field, general manager Joe Zuger resigned, leaving head coach John Gregory to perform double duty. While Toronto businessman David McDonald raised $3 million for Hamilton's ownership group. But the team still needed a cash infusion if it had any hope of continuing to field the team. It made 1994 one of the most important years in the history of the Tiger Cats. The CFL gave the franchise until December 31st to sell 12,500 season tickets, as well as $1 million in corporate sponsorships, or else the team would be revoked. With that hanging over players like Paul Baldiston, Earl Winfield, Mike O'Shea, Tim Cofield, and the coaching staff, it's no wonder the team struggled to a 4-14 record. But that would not be the worst record in the CFL. A year after welcoming Sacramento, the league granted expansion teams to Baltimore, Maryland, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Shreveport, Louisiana. The Baltimore Football Club, which most people called the Baltimore CFLers, would later become the Stallions. They went 12-6 in the East and beat Toronto and Winnipeg in the playoffs before losing 26-23 in the Grey Cup against BC. The Las Vegas Posse went 5-13 in their inaugural season in the West, while the Shreveport Pirates were placed in the East and went a league-worst 3-15. Sacramento finished 9-8-1 and just missed out on a playoff spot in the West. After Hamilton struggled to a 1-5 start to the season in 1994, they fired head coach John Gregory and replaced him with former defensive back and kicker Don Sutherland. The big hurdle for Hamilton, however, was the December 31st deadline to sell 12,500 season tickets and $1 million in corporate sponsorships. Even in the midst of a recession at that time, Hamiltonians and local companies rallied to save their team and met the CFL's target just before Christmas. 4 months after the Hamilton community came to the rescue and saved the Ticats from extinction, David McDonald and fellow Toronto businessman George Grant purchased the franchise outright on April 13, 1995. The next few years would bring more change for the Tiger Cats and the CFL, including 2 memorable Grey Cup finals that are still talked about to this day. Learn more in the next edition of the Fifth Quarter Show Seasons next week. If you like this video, click the thumbs up, leave a comment, and get ready for the next Ticats great to be featured on the newest episode of Legends. Until then, Oski Wee Wee.